The US and China have agreed to take down the taxes they both put on each other's countries. What does it mean to you? We also need to use some important new metrics to figure out how fast the economy is growing. You need to know this and always. We did learn yesterday that the US and China have agreed to a trade deal. We learned something new today about what is really in the deal. That's it. What did they say? What did they say? Both the US and China have stated that they will be lowering the tariffs they put on each other after President Trump raised them earlier this year. As part of the deal, both countries will get rid of some taxes and put others on hold for 90 days, starting on G 14. The result is that the extra taxes that the US put on Chinese goods during the recent trade disputes will go down from 145% to 30%, a 115% drop. This is great news. While not long ago, China's high taxes on some US goods dropped from 125% to just 10%. This will make things better for US companies that make things in the US and ship them to China from the US. Chinese people will find it easy to buy things in the US. But when China brings goods into or out of our country and we pay, we'll still have this 30% on most things. I'll show you what those things are in a moment. As a reaction to the first round of escalation, China has also stopped and taken away other non-tariff countermeasures, such as sending important minerals to the US. China said, "We're not going to give the US any rare earth materials or critical minerals while all of this was going on." But that has since been lifted. There is still an extra 20% in the US steps that are meant to put pressure on Beijing to do more to stop the illegal trade in fentanyl. That's the right thing to do, right? Because China is where most of the world's fentanyl comes from. It says here that the news came after talks between the two countries in Switzerland. These were the first talks between the two countries since Trump started the latest trade war. And just to add to what you already said, here is the opinion check. The S&P was 200 points lower the last time US taxes on China were this high. This was because rate cuts from the Fed were expected in 2025. The Fed recently said they don't plan to cut rates any further this year, and Wall Street was calling for one. On top of that, if you can see that the market has been going up and down like this, that's a lot better. Just so you know, 10% to 20% to 54 to 145. We're back to 30% now. After that, we did talk a little about what was going to happen. The 30% change made me want to see what kinds of things will be affected. So here is some of the information I already gave you about how much taxes will go down, and then the goods that are affected by the 30% scope of affected goods. The 30% tariffs cover a wide range of Chinese goods that are brought into the US, such as technology, clothing, machinery, consumer goods, and more. Some tariffs are still in place, like 25% tariffs on steel, aluminum, and cars, and a 20% tariff on goods linked to fentanyl worries that are made up of specific parts. That's great. This deal does not bring back the D- exception for low-value packages coming from China. Not only big packages, but also small ones are subject to tariffs. It looks like smaller goods were not tariffable before, but they still are now. Goods from Canada and Mexico that are covered by USMCA, formerly NAFTA, are not subject to those taxes, which is a good thing. Some tariffs that were put in place before, like those under certain executive orders, are no longer in effect. However, duties under Sections 301 and 232 are still in place. Gross margins for consumer goods companies can be anywhere from 40 to 50%, which has an effect on how much money the company makes. A 30% tariff cuts these earnings by a large amount. So basically, most of these things that come from China have a profit margin of between 0% and 50%. If you charge 30% and make 40%, the profit will be taken away, leaving the business with only 10%. Because of this, companies will still have to raise prices on most of the things you buy from China. That means this doesn't get rid of what was there before. Some of these tariffs will still be in place, which will hurt some American companies. There are also things we buy every day that will change because of it. I think this will go away soon, but we'll have to wait and see. What are the 10 most important countries that the US trades with, and what are the most important goods that come from those countries? This is because the US is trying to redo most of its trade deals. I really wanted to know and understand that. Here is a list of the most important countries based on how much trade they have. Mexico and Canada are at the top of the list. China really is 3. I hope that the US can make peace with both Mexico and Canada so that we can move on from this crazy time. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam are also there. United Kingdom, which is another deal they'd be working on in India. That's why Mexico is the most important. Because it's close, there is a trade deal called USMCA, and the US and Mexico's supply chains are deeply integrated in industries like agriculture, electronics, and cars. When it comes to US imports, Mexico has been ahead of China since 2023. And Canada, a trade partner for a long time whose energy and car industries are highly integrated. The US maquis wants trade to go smoothly, especially when it comes to oil and cars. Then China, of course, with its electronics, tools, and consumer goods. Germany and Japan basically supply the US with cars, machinery, and high-tech goods that help the production and consumer markets. China, Taiwan, South Korea, and Vietnam. For electronics, semiconductors, and consumer goods, it looks like we import from those countries. This shows how much the US depends on Asian tech supply lines. This is the main reason why the Biden government passed the CHIPS Act, which aims to make some of these chips in the United States. You also have the UK and India, which are important for trade in a wide range of things, including medicines, machinery, and more. The most important thing for these countries is that it put all of these different goods in order. A lot of this. I went over it with you, but there are still some things we didn't talk about. Of course, it's like crude oil, medicines, mineral fuels, wood, metal, and a lot of other very important things. If a trade deal isn't made between Mexico, Canada, Germany, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, and India, you will have to pay at least 25% more for all of these things from now on.